First one is the benefits of adjusting in certain areas specifically, and then how often to come. So the first thing we'll address is how often should we be getting adjusted. That really depends on function in the body. So there's a lot of schools of thought, a lot of chiropractors that will adjust a bunch at a set rate. So time and repetition really is the most important thing. In our office, what we look at is for function within the body. So I'm doing a lot of functional assessments. Now, the nervous system is what controls and coordinates every function in the body. So a lot of times we associate chiropractic with neck pain, low back pain, headaches, things like that. But the pain that you're experiencing is only about 10% of what those nerves do. The other 90% are controlling all the other functions in the body. And so if all we're doing is going based on the pain that you're experiencing, we're missing a big portion of what chiropractic is helping to support, which is the nervous system and the neurology of the body, the brain's ability to communicate with the body, but also the body back to the brain. So in our office, when we're determining function or determining how frequently we need to see somebody, it's always going to be based off of function. I want to see that your body's functioning optimally, and I want to see that you're holding your adjustments from visit to visit. So the benefit of frequent adjustments is that you're going to start to hold the adjustments for longer because of that repetition. Well, the more you get adjusted, the longer you should hold your adjustments, and the less frequent you'll need to be adjusted. So when you're coming in and getting on the table, what I'm looking at is for function. And if I can see that you're holding the adjustment or part of the adjustment, then we're going to start to space visits out. The goal is every time you come in, you don't need to be adjusted. Things aren't functionally have not shifted out of place, because that means that I can make you better and optimize your system. If every time you come in, everything's gone completely back out of place because we're not getting adjusted frequently enough, or because there's a lot of stress on your system, now I'm just playing catch up. And again, my goal is to improve your nervous system. I'm also looking at things like muscle activation. I'm looking at leg length, arm length, muscle activation, and muscle testing, strength. So I'm really assessing what's going on from a nervous system standpoint beyond just a pain standpoint. A lot of our patients that come into the office aren't experiencing physical symptoms, but they know that they're getting better because they can feel the immediate change in muscle activation and things like that when they stand up off the table. So as far as frequency, it's different for everybody. It depends on kind of where your body's at. Really the benefit of chiropractic is to help support the stress that you're putting on your body. And the more we stress the body, the more things we have to do to make up or manage that stress. I get adjusted once a week if I'm going through a heavy training cycle. Sometimes I'll be getting adjusted twice a week. Sometimes I'll go 2 weeks without getting adjusted. It kind of just depends. If I go 3 or more weeks, I'm going to be in rough shape. But that's because I abuse my body all the time. I've got a very physical job. I exercise and work out a lot. And so I get adjusted to help offset the stress I'm putting on my body in those other areas. For people who are doing less stuff physically, they maybe don't need to be adjusted as frequently. And that's kind of why we use functional assessments to guide us along that process. As far as benefits of adjusting in certain areas, when we're adjusting areas of the spine, we're working on kind of the tone and tension in the nervous system as a whole. So there's a lot of areas that you can adjust that have global effects. Adjusting the upper cervical area of the spine, that's where the blood supply, or a major portion of the blood supply, enters the skull. So when we get compression and tightness up across the back of the head, that can create dizziness, vertigo, anxiety, depression, nausea, vomiting, all sorts of things like that, because we are restricting that blood supply to the head. It's also where the brain and the spinal cord meet. All the nerves that go to your entire body from your neck down have to travel through that upper cervical area there. So that can have a big global effect on the spine. When we talk about other areas of global influence on the body, looking at the upper thoracic spine and the whole thoracic spine, really, there's a lot of sympathetic tone there. And so that can have a big, powerful influence on the body's ability to differentiate and kind of switch back and forth between parasympathetic and sympathetic tone. If somebody's in a fight or flight stage, adjusting in the sacral area and adjusting up at the base of the skull, the sacrum and the occiput, that's a big parasympathetic innervation, and that can really help to calm you down and pull you out. So depending on what's going on neurologically, and with the kind of fight or flight or rest and digest, we can adjust in different areas to help support that. Each part of the body is controlled by certain nerves. Those nerves all at some point feed back up into the spine. So adjusting certain segments in the spine can also support nerve function in different areas. The one that's the easiest for people to associate is like the lower back, is where the nerves come out that go down the legs. So you get that sciatic nerve pain. A lot of times that's going to be in the lower lumbar and sacrum area. You get the pain that goes down into the arms. That a lot of times is going to be from this lower cervical area. So if someone's coming in with numbness in the hands, we're probably going to be checking the upper thoracic and lower cervical spine. So yes, there are certain areas that we adjust. The way that we know how to adjust and where to adjust is going to be more of that functional assessment that we're doing every time you come in and get on the table. All right. What's the little clicky thing that we use? So the little clicky thing that we use in the office a lot of times is called an activator. So this allows us to be very specific on certain segments. It's also very low force adjusting technique. So it's going to click, it's going to impulse into the spine that actually moves a single segment within the spine. And it does it without all the popping, twisting, cracking, all of that stuff. So it's really great for people who are super sympathetic and super overstimulated when we want to adjust the spine without putting a huge force into the spine. It's good for people with osteoporosis or osteopenia where we can't put a huge force into the body, or people who don't like being adjusted manually. It can be very beneficial for that. The way I use it is when I need to be super specific in an area. I'll use it a lot of times in the back of the knee to adjust knees. I'll use it to adjust the pubic bone a lot of times, sometimes up in the shoulder. So I use it a lot more on extremities and things like that where I don't want to be putting a huge force into the body, or where I just simply don't want to be using my hands to adjust that part of the body. Let's look here. Again, guys, if you're watching this live and you've got any comments, feel free to drop those comments down below. 3 best supplements and the best time to take, or if you could only give 3 supplements. So if I can only give 3 supplements, let's just first start by qualifying this. Let's just assume this is a healthy individual. We'll assume it's a healthy male, right? So when we're thinking about what 3 supplements to give, we want to support long-term health here. So we know that the biggest detriment to long-term health is going to be stress, number 1. So we want to probably do something that's going to help modulate the stress response. Things like ashwagandha, super great for helping to support the stress response. We want to look at inflammation. We know inflammation is the root of all chronic disease. So if we were to work on an inflammatory process in the body, something like turmeric is going to be really good for that. We know oxidative stress, especially for males, is going to cause a lot of cardiovascular issues. Oxidative stress affects the mitochondria, it affects all sorts of things. So something that could support the oxidative processes within the body, something like glutathione, Japanese knotweed is absolutely amazing for that. Melatonin, green tea extracts. So I'll put this in the 3 categories of things I would want to support with supplements. The 3 categories would be stress, inflammation, oxidation. So if we were to support stress, we could use ashwagandha. Support inflammation, we could use turmeric. And to support oxidative stress on the body, we could use something like Japanese knotweed, which is going to be very high in resveratrol. Caveat to that is if we're doing a lot of exercise and strength training, or we're trying to maximize performance and recovery, we don't want to do a bunch of anti-inflammatory support and antioxidant support around exercise. So just keep that in mind for people who are exercising really rigorously. Anti-inflammatory and antioxidants can actually slow that healing process. All right, let's go. Okay, 3 best stretches. Okay. So if we're talking about the 3 best stretches for people, just in general, we want to stretch and support the upper thoracic spine. People get super, super tight in their thoracic spine. Something I use a lot and recommend is the peanut, which is basically just 2 tennis balls taped together. You lay on it and it helps you extend that thoracic spine. People are also getting really tight in the pelvis area. So working on the psoas, especially if we're sitting all day long and we're keeping that leg flexed, that psoas or the hip flexor, it's going to start to pull that lumbar spine forward into extension. So doing something that can stretch out that psoas, a modified Thomas stretch, is really beneficial. And then another stretch, I don't know if you consider this a stretch or not, but using a Deneral or a cervical pillow that can help to kind of get that corrective curve back into the neck. So my three recommended stretches would be something for the thoracic extension, like using a peanut, something to stretch out the psoas or the hip flexors, like a modified Thomas stretch, and then something to help support that cervical curve, like using a Deneral or a cervical pillow. All right, and then the last questions I've got for today, then I got to jump off here unless anybody has any dying questions they want to jump on and ask right now. So let's talk about the 3 best exercises with weight, and then the 3 best exercises without weight. So if we're going to be using weight, and let's qualify this again, so I don't want to be giving exercise advice to people who are untrained or people who have never lifted weights in your life. So let's just say that we've got some degree of strength training background here. If we're going to do the 3 best exercises with weight, we want to try to do something that's going to stabilize and work on activating the core. One of my absolute favorite things for core activation is going to be like a farmer's carry. So this is a very foundational exercise to work on core strength. So you could carry either a dumbbell or a kettlebell. You can carry it either on one side, on both sides, or up over the head. The way that you would want to progress this is carrying a farmer's or doing a bilateral or a dual-handed farmer's carry. So carrying weight in both sides. Transition that to carrying weight on just one side below, so hanging that weight down, and then you could progress that to carry the weight over your head. So we can talk about a farmer's carry progression. A lot of people struggle with shoulder stability. So one thing that you could do is kind of an arm bar to a, oh my gosh, my brain is turned off. You could do an arm bar to a, we'll come back to that when it comes back to me. Goodness gracious. I cannot think about what the name of that, a Turkish get up. Sorry. Okay. So let's reframe that. So the first exercise that we're going to talk about is going to be the farmer's carry progression. The second would be a Turkish get up progression. So you could start this with a laying down on your back arm bar where you're keeping the arm straight. You're using a dumbbell or a kettlebell and you're holding the arm in a neutral position on your back. You would then move into a windmill where you're standing with your legs slightly spread. The arm is going to be above your head, dumbbell, then kettlebell, and you're gradually bending to the side. So you're moving the body but holding the shoulder stable. So we're taking the arm through a range of motion. And then you can progress that one step further into a Turkish get up. And those would require weights. And then the last thing, get some lower body activation, get some glute activation. I really like goblet squats. So these are, and I don't want to give, like doing deadlifts and bench pressing and squats are awesome. But there's a big potential to get hurt doing those. And if your body's not moving well, they're very difficult. So something like a goblet squat or a bandit, not a bandit squat, a goblet squat or a squat with, gosh, I cannot think of exercise names right now. A belt squat where the weight is hanging around your waist and you're squatting down. Those are all really great exercises. So my three favorite kind of intro stabilization stability exercises would be the farmer's carry, the Turkish get up progression, and then some sort of goblet squat or a lower body exercise like that. And the three best exercises without weights. We can honestly kind of work on some of the same stuff here. So if we talk about working on the core without weights, some of the best things that you can do, McGill's Big Three, that's 3 exercises right there. But just a simple plank is really beneficial. You can do a regular plank and a side plank. That's going to really hammer that core. If we talk about doing shoulder stability, one of the big things we can work on without weights would be scapular push-ups. So instead of doing a traditional push-up like this, we would have the arms held straight and we would just sink down and do the push-up like that. So we're just moving the scapula. That's really going to work that serratus anterior in the front and really get some good scapular stability. And then honestly, even just doing the third one, maybe like just like an air squat, doing some sort of step up. If you don't have access to any equipment, you can get on the stairs and you can just do single-legged step ups. You can get a chair and you can stand up and down off the chair a bunch of times. So my three best exercises without weight, we'll do the scapular push-ups, we'll do the chair squat or the air squat, and then we'll do the plank and the side plank. So that's all I got today. I didn't see any other questions on here. We'll be back next week, next Tuesday at 5:30. So feel free, if you're watching this, backdrop any of your health questions below.